and that's otherwise known as Martius. And this is significant because on the last time I was on Crow, episode 416, so the reason the calendar started in Mars, the calendar of Romulus anyway, if it's even real, is because that's the commencement of the vernal equinox. Now, when Crow brought up the 10-month calendar, I kind of stuttered because I was thinking about, like, I had a lot of thoughts about it and like, do I want to open this can? But let me just do it for you. And because the reason that 10-month calendar is hard to get into is because you're left with more questions. Like, you go into it, you try to solve it, and then you're like, oh, what the fuck? I'm even more confused than when I started looking at this thing. But there are several issues of that 10-month calendar. Namely, just because you see the evidence of the numbers 5 through 10 for the months, it doesn't prove that there were only 10 months. I know the status quo says it does, and that's fine. And that status quo might be right. I just want to put something else on the table. But just because something has 5 through 10 as like what I mean by that, like September 7th covenant, October 8th covenant, and so on. It only goes up to December, which is 10, decim. Yet, what bothers me is this stuff is created by the priest class. And so you see the first month of the year corresponding to mythology, Martius, Mars. I have yet to see a satisfactory etymology of Aprilis, or April. Now, if you look at philologically, I'll put this on the table. The P and B are interchangeable. So is the V, right? But the if you were to put a B there, then you'd get that same like root as like you see in Abram, Abba, father. And then Rima is also a crack, a fissure, or a narrow cleft, which in that would be the Latin, but in Germanic languages, it is Ril. Rima is Ril. So that's also a narrow trench or gully, a small channel or a brook. So then you would have Abba Ril, Abrilis, which would be the path of the Father or the river of the Son. And I'm not saying that's what April means. I just wanted to put that out there because it's if you look up the etymology of April, there's a lot of weird shit that, to me, it's like, it just doesn't have the ring of truth to it. Now, Maius, May, what's that correspond to? Maya. Well, who's Maya? That would be the mother of Buddha and Mercury. That's where Maya, Mary, the mother of Jesus, comes from. Mira, the mother of Apollo, or Adonis. Sorry, excuse me. Well, it's the same, right? Junius, which is June, that might correspond to Juno, but it's likely the etymology I've seen from it is Jungo, right? Which is, it pertains to joining, the joining of the year at the solstice, right? But what the thing that I'm trying to harp on is this discrepancy doesn't match with anything, right? So not only that, when you look at the numbers of the months that are named, that take their names after numbers, the 5th and 6th months, which were Quintilius and Sextilius, they don't have the same structure as September through December have, which is that termination of BER, which corresponds to the Hebrew Brit. And that's spelled, if you were to transliterate it, BERITH, but it's pronounced Brit. And it means covenant. So the 7th covenant, the 8th covenant, the 9th covenant, the 10th covenant. Quintilius and Sextilius stand out like sore thumbs. They should have been Quintember or Sextember by the pattern of the other months that they follow. So what I'm seeing, just at the bare bones minimum, 3 different patterns in this calendar. And I'm wondering, are they the remains of other calendars that have been put together? Why? It's so unlikely that, in my opinion, just from what I've looked at, that the priest class would who do everything so precisely, would start the year naming it after mythological characters, and then just all of a sudden stop doing that and name the rest of the months after numbers. It's so bizarre. I don't know. But Mars rules the seas. Hence, we have the Latin word for sea being mare. Aries, read like Hebrew, becomes Sarah, which means Aries. Sorry, I got to spell that. Ares, the Greek god, right? Ultimately comes from the Egyptian sun, Aries, right? It's the same. Instead of an S, it's a Z. But that Sarah signifies a fluid or a liquid. So it's named after water. Again, Serapis. cerebrum, right? Again, it's going to have the seed encode in it. It's also going to have the Chris encode in it. Kere or Chris. Cerebrum is the cerebrum, right? Fluid of the Most High, which is the seed, the living water, the cerebral spinal fluid. In Golgotha, where Jesus is crucified, that nerve ganglia from your eyeballs, it looks like a crucifix as it goes down. Now, it's generated in the part of the body that corresponds to the Most High, the head, which is why the cerebrum corresponds to Aries in the anatomy of Adam Kadmon, which is the divine man, if you will. It's like the microcosm of God. Note that Sarah and Abram come from Saraswati and Brahma. Saraswati. So these are literally Indian archetypes. Abram is just Brahma. It's Brahm with they just moved the A, sharing the same root. Ram, Mars, Rama.
Right. Dude,